Philippine Marines versus MILF in Munai, the battle at Camp Bilal. They say one man's courage can change a battle's fate. In April 2000, deep in the jungles of Lanao del Norte, Philippine Marines stormed Camp Bilal in Munai against an entrenched MILF force. It was a fight of lives and honor. Today we'll uncover the untold heroism, the sacrifice, and the daring acts behind that clash. If you love military history, smash that like, subscribe, and tell me your thoughts below. Chapter 1. Setting the stage, Munai, Camp Bilal, and the rising storm. The night was still and heavy in Munai, Lanao del Norte. Deep in the southern Philippines, dense forest swallowed every whisper, except the wind. To the untrained eye, it was calm, but beneath, tensions were building. Camps of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, MILF, had taken root in those hills. Fortified positions, hidden trenches, watchers in the trees. Camp Bilal was one such stronghold. It stood as a symbol, a base from which the MILF launched attacks, controlled territories, and projected strength. The government saw it as a thorn, a rebel nerve center that must be crushed. In March-April 2000, President Joseph Estrada ordered the full might of the armed forces to strike it. But the Philippine Marines had rarely been spotlighted in the stories from that campaign. Their role, their trials, their cost, almost untold. Imagine trekking through swamps, under dripping canopies, carrying heavy packs, knowing every shadow might conceal an enemy bullet. That was the path the Marines took. They were part of a larger brigade effort, backed by infantry, artillery, even air cover. Their mission? Storm the rebel positions, break the barricades, and retake Bilal at all cost. On the rebel side, dugouts and foxholes, mortars, and sniper nests awaited them. The micro-world of war lay hidden beneath green leaves and moss, snipers perched in trees, rebels in tunnels, supply caches stashed behind ridges. The Marines would have to close that distance, often with no cover, under enemy fire that whispered in every branch and rustle. At the heart of this fight was Sergeant Tomas Campo Jr, a corpsman whose name would become legend. On that day, 10 Marines lay wounded in open ground under sniper and mortar fire. Campo rushed forward again and again to pull them to safety. But when he tried to rescue an 11th comrade, he was struck and died on that battlefield. This story is not just about strategy or numbers. It's about grit, sacrifice, and hands that bled to save others. Keep watching, there's more to come. And if this is your first time here, please hit subscribe, like, and drop a comment. Marines versus MILF. I want to hear your reactions. Chapter 2. Marines move in. The first clash and the trenches of death. The hush shattered. Before dawn broke, the Marines crept forward, boots on leaf-littered ground, rifles ready, hearts pounding. Their objective? Storm Camp Bilal and break the rebels' grip. Every step was dangerous. Mines might hide under leaves. Snipers could emerge without warning. As the light crept in, the Marines reached a ridgeline overlooking trenches carved deep into the earth. The MILF had turned Camp Bilal into a fortress. Trenches, foxholes, sandbags, machine gun nests, mortars with hidden pits. The rebels were ready. Suddenly, a volley of gunfire. The air exploded with tracer rounds and mortar blasts. The Marines were met with withering fire. Some froze, others dove for cover. The battle had come alive. The 20th Marine Company, part of MBLT-10, was in the thick of it. They pushed toward points GC-158915, GC-159919, and GC-165917, locations where MILF forces had pre-positioned in well-fortified trenches. The enemy fired small arms and mortars in heavy volume. The Marines' advance was slowed. Some squads were pinned down under crossfire. And then it got personal. 10 Marines, forward and exposed, were struck by enemy fire. Wounded, vulnerable, no immediate cover. Their radios crackled, the sound of pain and commands intermingled. Around them, bullets kicked up dirt, mortar shrapnel whistled overhead. That's when Sergeant Tomas Campo Jr, the corpsman of the 20th Marine Company, took action. He saw his comrades bleeding under open sky. Without hesitation, he ran forward, past the danger zone, weaving between tracer fire and explosions to their side. For each wounded Marine, Campo dragged or carried them back to a safer ground, treating wounds as he went. Under sniper fire, under mortar bursts, he ignored his own safety. He made multiple trips. Each time, he risked being the next casualty. Then a twist. The platoon commander was hit. In that moment, Campo turned again and rushed to reach him despite the danger. That was when a bullet struck. Campo fell. His life ended there, on the battlefield. A grim silence followed, but not defeat. The Marines held on. Reinforcements advanced. The intense first clash left many shaken, but the resolve in their eyes hardened. They would not leave their own behind. They would push forward. Chapter 3. Sergeant Campo's Last Stand, a hero among wounded. The sun was climbing when the bullets started rattling over the ridges near Camp Bilal. Sergeant Tomas Campo Jr., hospital corpsman of the 20th Marine Company, Marine Battalion Landing Team 10, heard the explosions first. Mortars, rifles, and the sharp crack of sniper fire. Ahead, 10 of his fellow Marines lay wounded in open ground. The enemy, anchored in well-fortified foxholes and trenches at vicinity coordinates GC158915, GC159919, and GC165917, rained down small arms and mortar fire. Any approach was like walking into a hailstorm.
Witnesses say Campo did something almost unthinkable. He ran toward the danger. Bullets whizzed past, mortar fragments kicked up earth around him. Without waiting for orders, he moved from wounded one to wounded one, pulling them to safe cover, treating wounds with whatever supplies he had, over and over, all under enemy sniper and mortar fire. He ignored his own safety. One by one, 10 Marines were dragged to safety. The pain in their voices, the smoke in the air, the smell of gunpowder and blood, all of it must have been in Campo's mind. But he pressed on. Just when it seemed the worst was behind them, the platoon commander was shot. Recognizing the urgency, Campo moved again toward the front, leaving cover to reach the officer. That's when tragedy struck. A hail of bullets from enemy positions cut him off. Though he'd saved all 11 who were wounded, including the officer, Campo himself was fatally hit. He died there on the battlefield. For his bravery, Campo was posthumously awarded the Medal of Valor, the highest military honor in the Philippines. His act wasn't about glory. It was about love for his comrades, caring, saving lives, even at the cost of his own. Remember, Campo's sacrifice changed more than lives. It changed hearts. He showed what courage looks like when no one's watching, when the choice is between safety and duty. If this story of heroism inspires you, please like, subscribe, and share in the comments. Campo's courage means more lives lived. Who is your hero? Chapter 4. Turning Tides. Pressure, reinforcements, and rebel retreat. As the brutal firefight dragged on, the Marines were bleeding, but they were not broken. The enemy's trenches were deep, the defenders entrenched, but the pressure was mounting. Across the field, the Philippine Marines Battalion Landing Team 10 was the main effort in a brigade-scale assault. Behind the initial assault units, reinforcements closed in. Artillery fire pounded rebel positions. Mortars, machine guns, and even air support from Allied units added weight. The rebels, once confident, began to feel pinched. One flank was hit. Marines advanced from the east, others from the north. The rebels, cut off from supplies, began to lose coordination. The heavy volume of government fire, compounded by pressure on multiple fronts, strained MILF lines. Inside the rebel trenches, confusion crept in. Some fighters tried to hold, others attempted to slip away through hidden jungle trails. The hiding places they once counted on now became traps as the Marines sealed exits and enfiladed trenches. At a critical juncture, the Marines launched a coordinated push. Under suppressive fire, assault teams surged forward. Grenades flew, machine guns roared, and the rebels' resolve buckled. The Marines broke through several strong points. In one intense moment, a group of rebel fighters attempted to counterattack a breached trench. The Marines pinned them with flanking fire. Under that pressure, the counterattack collapsed. Then the retreat began. Rebel fighters, many wounded or exhausted, abandoned trenches and fled into the forest. As dawn brightened, Marines walked into formerly hostile positions. Trenches still smoking, weapons left behind, sandbags torn apart. By nightfall, Camp Bilal, once a feared fortress, had fallen. The MILF stronghold was overrun. Government troops overran a large MILF camp on the boundary of Bilal and Munai, towns in Lanao del Norte, as reported in the press. This didn't just break a camp, it struck a symbolic blow. One of the MILF's bases, once a rebel nerve center, was now a victory marked by scars and sacrifice. But victory was not without cost. Wounded Marines, emotional strains, and the weight of memory. The ground was won. The story, however, would echo far beyond the battlefield. If you're moved by this story, hit like, subscribe, and comment below. Which moment gave you chills? Chapter 5. Aftermath, Legacy, and Lessons. When the smoke cleared over Camp Bilal in April 2000, the Philippine Marines had won more than just ground. They had won something harder. Hearts, stories, and a legacy that lives on. The government declared victory in the 2000 Philippine campaign against the MILF. Capturing Camp Bilal was one of the key successes. Sergeant Tomas Campo Jr.'s brave sacrifice became a beacon. For pulling 10 wounded Marines to safety and attempting to rescue an 11th one at the cost of his own life, he was posthumously awarded the Medal of Valor, the highest military honor in the Philippines. All 11 Marines he risked his life for. His story inspired many, within and beyond military ranks. But Camp Bilal's story didn't end with bullets and battlegrounds. Years later, the region began transforming. The comprehensive peace agreement between the government of the Philippines and the MILF opened the doors for peace, normalization, and development. Camp Bilal became part of programs to bring basic services, infrastructure, and housing to communities once torn by conflict. In 2025, more than 2 decades after the battle, over 100 housing units were constructed in Camp Bilal for decommissioned MILF combatants and their families, under the government's Camp's Transformation Plan. Additionally, legal identity programs enabled former fighters to obtain birth certificates and access public services. What lessons does Camp Bilal teach us? 1. Courage can change the tide not just of war, but of reconciliation. 2. Sacrifice matters even if some stories are not always front page. 3. Peace and development take time, but the scars of war can be healed if the will is there. So today, when you walk through communities in Munai, you'll see new homes, children in schools, and once fighting MILF combatants helping build villages instead of fighting them. If this story moved you, if Sergeant Campo's courage touched something inside, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Which lesson from Camp Bilal inspires you most? Your support helps tell more stories like this. Thank you for watching. Don't let these heroes be forgotten. Thank you also so much for subscribing, liking, and commenting to our videos. Good luck!